Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by CrowCast. Of course, nice to see you here on a Sunday night. Welcome to everyone who's joined us on YouTube and Facebook, as well as those stalwarts that are in the Discord chat. Fantastic to see you all here again, as always, and really appreciate your support. There's 30 in the chat, Macca. Big night tonight.
Yep, and a very good night it is too.
Yeah, so lots to talk about, of course. It was a fantastic win by the Crows, Mac, and really surprisingly, the Bulldogs didn't seem to give much of a yelp.
Yeah, I don't think we gave them the opportunity, mate. That was easily our best side for the year, and it resulted in our best win for the year. There's only probably maybe one or maybe two players you'd put into that side if they were available, but it was the best team we've fielded this year. It was a comprehensive win, and we never ever looked like losing it. And it was good to see young Curtin get a full game. And
it was
this last two goals. But
and he repaid the faith, mate.
He did, and Nick's did it right for once. I mean, I reckon we have bashed him into submission verbally. Because he's actually probably because what he's done in this particular game is what we would have done ages ago, mate.
Yeah, that's right. They've slowly got there. So begrudgingly got there, I reckon.
It's a good word, begrudgingly, yeah. Yeah, he's been forced to by, pressure.
Well, yeah, and, I reckon there was probably one lad that was a bit stiff and one bloke that was a bit lucky to get in, but irrespective, we can't be too negative tonight because it was really a very good performance across the board. I can't really think of more than maybe one or two passengers, but we'll get into that more a little bit further. How's your weekend been, mate? I'm just sipping on a nice 21 Casey's Block Shiraz from the Barossa. What are you doing?
Oh, it's been a lot of socialising, mate. A lot of socialising. But I love it. It's good. And especially when it's in your own home, you don't have to worry about driving, going home or anything like that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
right. It's been a bloody good weekend, and this capped it off very nicely indeed.
All right. Well, as I said, thanks to everyone who's joined us on YouTube and on Facebook and in our Discord chat. Don't forget, if you are joining us in the Discord chat and you're in the live audience and you feel like having something to say, we've had some really good contributors over the last couple of weeks, Macca. So don't be afraid to see if you can outdo Mordot and Arab and get on and have your say. That'd be fantastic. Also, Macca, I have to say that I have to give a big shout out to everyone who listens and supports CrowCast. Last week, for the first time, our episode made the top 10 football podcasts in Australia, and that's all codes: NRL, soccer, NFL, AFL, etc. I think we were the fourth highest AFL related podcast in Australia with our episode last week, and number 9 overall, which is an absolute gift to us from everyone who listens to us on any platform. Okay, that statistic was on our the Apple podcast chart, so it doesn't even include the people that listen to us on YouTube and Facebook and other platforms. But irrespective, it just it sounds really trite, but it really is humbling to think that so many people listen to us, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, well, we do our best, Fane. That's all we can do, and apparently it's good enough at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So thanks to everyone. And if you are listening on YouTube, we've snuck over 790 subs, which doesn't sound much for YouTube, and it isn't, but for such a niche show, it's excellent. And the thing is that I reckon just about every one of those subs is listening every week, which is fantastic. So if you are listening and you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so if you can. It helps us spread the word a little bit more. Helps us. We really would like to push up to that golden number of 1,000, wouldn't we, Macca? I don't think we'll get there this year, but it'd be great if we did. And if you're listening on iTunes, it'd be fantastic if you dropped us a review just to help us along there as well. All right. Without further ado, let's smack into your 15 minutes of fame, mate. And we start off on Friday night with a cracker. The Swans in the end up by 3 points, somewhat controversially. 13-11-89 to Collingwood 12-14-86.
Yeah, well, the Pies, they obviously came with a plan to shut down Sydney's main players in Goulden, Heaney, Warner, and in turn, the Swans, they thought they'd tag Dacos out the game. I think they were quite successful in doing that too. I thought he had a pretty poor game by his standards. And it worked for the Pies in the first half. And things looked pretty grim at three-quarter time for the Swans. But I have to say, Heaney's last quarter, I think, was the best individual quarter I have seen from a footballer for a long time.
Yeah. Talk about picking up. Talk about putting your team on your back and carrying them over the line, right?
Yep. And as a result of that, but the Pies went from a certain victory to just getting nutted by Sydney. And I think that comeback by Sydney might be just the thing that will generate some form back into their team, because they have been travelling very ordinary, and and well done Heaney though. I thought it was outstanding by him.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic effort. Warner had a good last corner as well, and between them they just got them over the line. And Collingwood now, Fly just feeling what it's like to be an outsider, because as he said, he might have got that 50 metre if it was at the G, and it's like, well, shit, Craig, just welcome to the lives of the rest of us when we play Collingwood. So I'm glad you raised that, Pete. I'm really glad you raised that, because for the Collingwood coach to complain about a free kick not paid, which would have been crucial. How do you reckon we feel? It happens to us all the bloody time when we go over there. And, exactly.
Welcome to our world. That's all I can say.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And there was a certain amount of irony there. Look, Collingwood now still being kept in the race because of other results, but just going at the moment. So last 2 rounds crucial for them. The next game was also a cracker. The Giants coming from nowhere to beat the Lions and catapulting themselves into the top 4. The Giants 13-4-82, Brisbane 8-16, Paul kicking 64, the Giants by 18.
Yep, like them. So I'll start again. Brisbane.
Spit it out, mate.
I was actually going to start on the previous game again. Sorry about that. Brisbane, they started off like steam trains, really, and I thought it was going to be a one-sided game in the first quarter. If they'd kicked straight, it would have been a really big lead. I thought how far Brisbane after the first quarter. But after that first quarter, GWS kicked 12 goals 3 to 4 goals 9 for the rest of the game. Yep. They got on top all over the ground, and I just can't pick that many individuals, but because they did a lot of it in teamwork. Tom Green, of course, was absolutely outstanding, and he
was good.
He led the way, but overall, the Lions had 24 scoring shots to 17, and they had 3 posters and at least 3 certainly missed. And it just goes to show you get a certain amount of chances in a game, and if you don't take them, you waste them. And
that's correct.
Very costly loss for Brisbane.
Yeah, well, it certainly puts them back in the mix for missing the top four, which is something you wouldn't have expected. So you're right, but it feels like with the results the way they fell this week, everything's up for grabs. And we'll talk about that when we get to the ladder, but it's certainly a very, very even competition going in the last two rounds. Down the bottom end, the Weagles, spoiling my mate Jared's desire for three in a row for his beloved Kangaroos. The Eagles getting up 15-12, 102 to North 14-13, 97, 5 points there.
Comfortable leader got at half time, got run down. They were 4-goal up, and you would expect them to go on with it. But I mean, Zeri was absolutely starring in ruck, and Sheasel, as always, he was starring as well. But no, West Coast, they lifted in the second half, and they got on top. And Oscar Allen up forward kicked 5 goals in that second half, and it also kicked the winning goal with a minute to go. So. West Coast is starting to put a little bit of an act together. I think they've won. Have they won all their games since the coach retired, or did they win one?
No, I don't think they've lost all their won all their games. They've won a couple, but I think they lost the first one after Simpson left.
Oh no, sorry, I meant all their wins. Were they underneath this relief coach?
No, I think they had one under Simpson.
Right, okay. But anyhow, they're certainly playing better brand of footy, anyhow.
Yeah, that's true. The Cats, just keeping on. Macca, 11-point winners over the Dockers at Optus, Freo 9-8-62, Geelong 10-13, 73.
Yeah, I think Freo lost it before the game started when Darcy dropped out their ruckman. It was a real dour struggle, and halfway through the last quarter, I was thinking that Freo are going to hang on to this, but bloody Dangerfield, he became reinvigorated. He had an outstanding last quarter, and it was Dangerfield at his best actually, and he really inspired his team to get up, and they ended up winning by 11 points. But as I said, I think it showed that Jackson is not a first ruckman backside, and they really do need Darcy. If he's going to be out for any major period of time, it's going to really affect Freo in the next couple of games. It will.
And speaking of keeping faint hopes alive, Gold Coast getting up at the death over the Bombers, 13-9-87 to 12-14-86.
Yeah, Mac Andrew, who was apparently one of the villains at halftime, and there was a great big punch up, and did he get reported? I'm not sure. I haven't looked yet to see what he. But anyhow, he was a villain, but he was also the hero as he kicked the winning goal after the siren, actually. And it's a classic Essendon type game. They refuse to shut the lid on it when they're well on top. Merritt was very, very good in the middle, and they kicked 1-9 in the last quarter and just kept the door open for Gold Coast, and finally Gold Coast had won an away game. So I don't think it helped. It doesn't help Gold Coast, but it certainly destroys Essendon.
Well, it keeps Gold Coast in with a tiny, tiny, tiny little sniff, I think. But you wouldn't expect that to amount to anything. And speaking of McAndrew, the side that would have loved to have had McAndrew, because he was part of their NGA, I think, for a while, Melbourne going down by 2 to the Power, 7-9-51 to Port, 7-11-53.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't much of a spectacle in the game. I thought that it was, a Dow game, don't get me wrong. It was Dow, and in those Dow games, you don't get a lot of brilliance. But I would say this, though. Horn Francis, I think, played one of the greatest individual midfield games and midfield stroke forward games I've seen for a long time. This guy is going to be anything. I mean, this is we're starting to see what we all predicted, or what most of us predicted he was going to become, and everyone that was poo-pooing him after his first year and all the rest of it, they can eat humble pie, because it was evident from his junior days what sort of kid he was going to be, and he's carried that through. And
It's only his third season, Mac.
I know, and that was outstanding. He was absolutely outstanding. I mean, he had good support in Butters and Rosie, and I think that apart from Pickett, who was outstanding for the D's with his 4 goals, I think he had about 21 disposals, and Gawn, who played well. But Melbourne have gone to pot. They've gone to pieces, and I don't know what that means for the coach, whether Goody stays there or whatever. But they're going downhill at 100 mile an hour, and but well done to Port Adelaide. They played well, and it'll be interesting playing them next week. And I think one of the things we're going to have to do is to try and contain their midfield to some degree.
Well, what happens to Goody will probably depend on what happens to Nix.
Yep, fair comment.
Anyway, and then my new second favourite team, Hawthorn, just absolutely steamrolling Carlton. Now, I know Carlton were down to about 2 fit men by the end of it, but Hawthorn, gee whiz, 16-16, 1-1-2 to Carlton 5-8-38. I just really enjoy watching him play at the moment.
Well, you have to. You really do have to, because they play footy with great enthusiasm and love of the game. They really do. And they all put in, and they're a funny mixture of a team. They've got a couple of old veterans in there. But having said that, they've got rejects from other teams. They've got young lads coming through. And I think their coach, he can really take a big bow of getting this team together and gelling players, putting them in the right positions. And some of them have played not a lot of games. Others have, as I said, part way through their career, and others at the end of their career. But he's got them playing really good footy, and they slaughtered Carlton, absolutely slaughtered. It was a really bad day for Carlton, because not only did they lose the game, but Charlie Curnow got injured as well. So their final chances of taking a bit of a nosedive as well.
Well, they've ended up out of the 8 at the end of that. Who would have thought 2 weeks ago?
Exactly.
Amazing. And then in a game that no one cared about, except maybe us, because we need to keep below St Kilda to get pick 4, they did the right thing and thrashed Richmond by 8 goals, 15-9-99 to 7-9-51.
Correct on both counts, Dean. We needed them to win, so because with us winning to stay where we were, and nobody does care. So I'll just say that Marshall played very well in ruck, and he was well supported by Steele and Sinclair.
Yes, and they might look good with Jack Lukosius in their forward 9 next year to complement Georgiades and Marshall.
You reckon?
I don't know. We might talk about the Lukosius situation a little bit later on.
Yep.
All right, let's have a look at the ladder, Mac. And Sydney still on top with that win by a game clear over Port and GWS and Geelong all on 56 points. So the race for top is still wide open, mate, which you wouldn't have thought 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Anybody's.
Yeah, and as we mentioned a while back, given how open the competition is, that home ground advantage is going to be extremely important, in my opinion, as we move through the phases of the final series. The Lions dropping out on 54 points, Freo on 50, Bulldogs on 48, and who would have thought after a 0-5 start, Hawthorn in the 8 on 48 points. And then... sorry, go on.
Well earned too, mate. I'll just say well earned, because they've sort of come from the clouds with a great big swoop, haven't they?
Oh, look, amazing run. After that start, and Mitchell being under pressure, they have just torn it apart since then. Carlton, with injury problems and all sorts of issues, out of the 8 now, 48 points. Essendon still in with a sniff on 46. Collingwood still in with a sniff on 40. Gold Coast and Melbourne still in with a technical, mathematical sniff, but you'd think that they're out of it on 40 points each. Saints on 36, Adelaide on 34, West Coast on 20, moving clear of North on 12, and Richmond on 8. Macca. So it's a wide open race. It really is. It's quite amazing. I can't recall you know, a season with I don't think there's a standout. I think there's a couple of teams that are in form at the moment, but I don't think there's a standout for the flag at this stage. You would have said Sydney a month ago, but not anymore. And Port playing good footy, GWS playing footy, Geelong always find a way to win. Brisbane, that was their first loss for 9 weeks, so you can't really bag them too much because they came from a long way back. Freo sort of stuttering along, and as you mentioned, losing the ruckman is going to hurt them. The Bulldogs didn't strike me as a premiership team today, Mac, at all. And I reckon Hawthorn would put fear into any of those teams in the bottom half of the 8 were they to play them in the first week of the finals.
I'd have to agree with that. I was very unimpressed with them. And, I mean, it's like even the Bont, who had 26 disposals, I got a shock when I saw that he had 26 disposals because he had no real impact on the game at all.
Yeah. No, I thought his he didn't have. There wasn't a lot of hurt factor there. He kicked a goal sort of towards the end and whatever, but it wasn't one of his more dominant games. And before we move into that, Mac, just a reminder to those on the Discord chat, if you do want to have your say during the course of the thing, then stick your hand up and get around it. If you're on YouTube, there's a few people, and I'm very grateful to those people that chucked in a super chat or a super thanks or whatever, and chucked a couple of dollars our way. So thank you very much for that. Now, Macca, our good friends at the Here We Crow podcast, and I say good friends. Are they, though? I suppose they are. I mean, they're all right, I suppose.
Yeah, I've only listened to a couple of episodes of theirs. They go all right.
They're pretty harmless, sort of a crew. Likeable.
Yeah.
Likeable. No, we do enjoy their work and the guys and girls at Here We Crow. It's their 100th episode this week. So for those of you who haven't listened to the Here We Crow podcast, get around it. They actually stream live and then post their podcasts on the usual platforms similar to us. I think they're streaming from the courtyard at the Torrens Arms on tomorrow night, and you never know. You never know. The Torrens Arms is a local of mine, Macca. And it makes you wonder whether I should just stroll down there, because they bloody keep throwing down this challenge of even I could kick that. And they gave us a nice little couple of minutes on their podcast last week, and in amongst that was a bit more of a gauntlet thrown down about even I think that. So we might have to take up the challenge.
You do have to take up the challenge, Fiend.
Why only me? Why only me?
Because you're you. That's why.
Why not you?
Well, you're very close to them there. So you're very handy.
Right.
So I think, and you know, you're the man they want. So I think you should be there.
Yeah. All right. So anyway,
they're a good crew.
Yeah. No, they are good people, and it's a good cast, good fun. And as I said, it's their 100th this week, so get around them. Our good friend Sensible is now part of that. I don't know whether he's part of that every week, but he certainly comes on, as he does to us now and again too, when he's feeling up to it, which is great. So get around him, and we'll see what happens on Monday night, Mac. We'll just see.
Okay, I'll have a listen to see if you're there.
I won't be there. I'm not going there, but someone may be there. I might send an ambassador or a missionary or something. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yet. Okay. Emissary, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I thought you said missionary the first time.
No, It's doggy or nothing, mate.
They would like that on their show.
Oh, sorry, Vardy. Sorry, just dropped. Oh, I reckon I'm running scared, says the Rock. Whoever the hell that is. Come on, mate. Me running scared. Come on. All right, let's move on. So, the Crows, 39-point winners over a dispirited Western Bulldogs who couldn't kick straight. 17-9-1-1-1 to the Bulldogs 9-18-72. I don't think their kicking was a major factor, Knack, but it didn't make it any easier for them.
No, it didn't. And basically, the one player was one of the ones that had the same problem. I think he finally got a goal, but he was 0-4 at one stage. So, you get a certain amount of chances, you've got to take them, and they didn't. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a quick look at how we lined up. Look, I thought Billy Dowling was terribly, terribly unfortunate to miss out.
Totally agree.
For Isaac, we all know the obvious change that most of us would have made was Lockie Murphy. But apparently those photos are still in the drawer, and as a consequence, it was Billy that missed out. But look, as you mentioned though, Mac, apart from that, it did appear to be one of our most balanced sides that we've put out for the season.
It was well balanced. I did like it, and as you say, only the one change I would have made, and you mentioned that. But moving Laird out onto back to the half-back flank where he made his name for himself, and letting others go through the middle. I thought they did the middle very well today. They gave Curtin a lot more CBAs than probably he may have deserved, but it was the right thing to do to get him experience to it. And I think the longer he was in there, he was starting to pick up the idea. I thought Crouch, who we really gave a hiding last time, and rightly so, I thought that he had a much better balance in his game in this particular one. But Dawson was very, very good even through there. Soligo, he did his bit. And overall, I haven't seen who won the overall clearances, but I thought we did pretty well.
Well, and that's the podcast, everyone. Thanks very much. No, look, summed it up well, Mac. It was an all-play well situation, apart from Murph, who I didn't think had much of an input for the game. Look, your comments on Matty Crouch, I thought he improved as the game wore on. I was watching it with my son, Cam, at his place, and we both commented for a while how prone he is to going sideways and backwards, and how it's always his first move to go sideways or backwards. But to his credit, later as the game wore on, he started to gain some territory with his kicks. But when you contrast the dynamic movement of Berry with the static movement of Crouch, the only knock on Berry, in my opinion, this week was his ball handling at times was a little bit astray. But it's chalk and cheese in my opinion.
Yeah, but I thought the mix of players was pretty good. I mean, Rankin started off in there, and he got the first one in very classy fashion indeed. I thought that Berry's effort was very, very good. It just didn't quite go his way today, but I didn't think it was through a lack of effort. And I thought his effort was good actually. And from Crouch's point of view, I agree with the sideways movement, but he did straighten up as the game went on. So
yep, he did.
So overall, I thought the mids did pretty well.
Yep. Yeah, look, they did, and they had a few running through there. It was nice to see Isaac go back in. I would have liked to have seen Rash in there a little bit more, Mac, but it was good to see Curtin get a bit of a run through there as well. So, and look, whatever it was, it worked because our, we didn't give much of a look in, really, in terms of those stats. Let me just go through them real quick. We had 376 disposals to 339, 232 kicks to 197, handballs even, 144 to 142, inside 50s. They actually had a lot more, Western Bulldogs, which surprised me, 43 to 59, but I didn't feel like their transition into their forward line was smooth. They did have they had a period there in the third quarter where they were getting quite a few repeat inside 50s. But it was hard work for them, I felt. Disposal efficiency, they did burn the ball a bit under 70%. We're at 73.5. Our efficiency inside 50 obviously was far better than theirs, 60.5 compared to 45.8. The free kicks, we won't go on about the umpires, but there was one umpire to the left of screen that was determined to, I think we categorised him as going rogue about halfway through the match, and some of the decisions that were made or non-decisions were highly questionable. Mac, how'd you see that?
Absolutely mystifying. Yeah, there was a period, probably about 5-10 minutes in a row, where it was just absolute insanity, the umpiring, and it was that one umpire all the time. Somebody says umpire 17, I'll take your word for it. All I knew is I didn't know his umpire 17. I knew him as effing umpire, but that's a different thing. If you, and I'm sure it isn't, but if you could be excused, for thinking that he was cheating. I mean, I know they don't, but he could be excused for thinking that, because some of the decisions he made were insane, or the lack of decisions were insane. It just didn't make sense what he was doing.
No, it was very bizarre. And it was quite evident there was he kind of just, like I said, he just decided to go rogue. It was like a switch was flicked, and he just started making some questionable ones. So anyway, it didn't matter in the end. I have to give credit where it's due. Riley O'Brien destroyed Tim English. 59 hit-outs for the match to 22, and a couple of really nice ones too. So credit to Riley, had a good game. Took a couple of marks around the ground too, and we'll go through those individual stats a little later. Clearances, 31 to 34. We won the centre 14-11, which was quite evident. They were up by 6 around stoppage, but again, didn't seem to be able to hurt us, Mac.
No.
I don't know. They've lost a little bit of the grunt around their midfield mix, haven't they? When they had Smith and those blokes, and Bontempelli was playing pure mid and all that, they just seem to have a lot more grunt in their midfield. Now that they don't seem to have that ability to break away like they did back in their premiership year.
Well, Liberatore was pretty quiet. Trelaw who's been in smashing form. I thought he was held to.
He was well held, and that's to our credit. Like you said before. Sorry to interrupt you, but they did. They've had a good run, the Bulldogs, and for us to hold Liberatore and Trelaw and Bontempelli to acceptable levels, I think it's probably a credit to our guys.
Yeah, and it's you've got to give Rob a lot of credit, because he's a very unfashionable type of ruckman, but his effort was outstanding. Now, why I raise that is because English has got the heart of a half-forward flanker in the great big sized body. He should be doing.
Why do you have to put half-forward flankers down?
Well, I'm thinking Murphy in particular, but no. But having said that, he plays the role of a small man in a big man's body, and seriously, Rob absolutely destroyed him, and yet English, in terms of talent, it's got much more talent, and if they could put a real firecracker of a heart inside that guy, he could be anything, and but he stays at a good level, but not an outstanding level, because he just hasn't got that real burning desire.
Yeah, it's a strange one, English, because he looked like a world beater at times in his career, but not at the moment. Not at the moment. He's not playing with any passion at the moment.
No,
Anyway, contested posies, we beat them at ground ball 144 to 137, uncontested 220 to 192. I felt we did play that stop-start sort of slow switchy kind of game, Mac, but it seemed to work. It's not my favourite, but it wasn't a quick. Most of the time anyway, it was quite a methodical sort of a game plan. It wasn't a run and gun kind of game plan, but it was effective. Turnovers even 68-67, and we had a bit more of it than the Bullies throughout the course of the match, which is quite interesting when you consider the disparity in inside 50s. So we had a lot of possession between the arcs, Mac, and when we did go forward, we were quite effective with it. But that does suggest that we fluffed around with it a little bit, or maybe we just shared it around a little bit.
Yeah, the inside 50 is 59 their way and 43 to us. I mean, that is a big disparity, really, when you think of the margin we won by. It means that we were very efficient going forward, and they weren't.
Yeah, well, and as I said, when you compare the inside 50 count to the disparity in possession, like they had 39% possession for the match, we had 43% possession, and yet they were able to get the ball inside 50 more often. It's an interesting stat. It'd be good to go back and have a look at the game with that context in mind and see how that sort of played out. But anyway, we're not going to do that right now.
No, a comment in the chat, somebody mentioned Smith, and it looks like our pressure to keep getting rid of Smith has worked, because that's 2 weeks in a row now the guy hasn't played.
Well, that could be his career, mate.
Well, it's an interesting one, what they will do, because they said that he'd played the appropriate amount of games that his contract said would entitle him to another year. Whether they'll just pay that out and get rid of him, I don't know. But
no. Let me get through the stats first, and then we'll talk about that. You know the format. Mark's 112 to 80, so we did play very much a kicking game. Mark's inside 50, 18 to 12. How good is it to see Fogarty and Thilthorpe take a couple of clunks? Contested marks also 18 to 11. That's a stat that we don't often win, but we certainly had aerial superiority against the Bulldogs. Tackles 56 to 66. Tackles inside 57 to 15. So Lockie Murphy had one job to do and clearly didn't do it. 1% is fairly even, 45 to 39. So, the stats tell you a few things. It tells you that we were good out of the bounce. It tells you that we were good at contested ball, and we basically kept the ball away from them by foot, Macca, for most of the game.
Yeah, we did do a fair bit of that. As you said, particularly when we were coming out of defence, we were trying not to burn the ball. And the players that they used a lot, that Shoal was used a lot. And I think Keys, I thought Keys had another very good game. He got used a bit. But I think the idea was to basically get it, not just launch into the forward line blindly, but to bring it into an opportunity for a score. And when you think about it, the number of scoring shots they got out of the number of entries into the forward 50, it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, they just kept missing.
Sorry?
Oh, Adelaide, you mean? Yeah, I agree. But we've been efficient. We've been efficient going forward for some time now. With the addition of Riley into the forward line, and playing those tall targets, we've been far more efficient. We are certainly carrying the ball further in transition. When we're playing well, when we get the best out of our forward line, we are carrying the ball further in transition and getting deeper entries. Our problem when we're under pressure and when we play the good teams that are up in our face, the big contrast is that our forward entries are shallow, because we're releasing the ball into our forward 50 from further back, from 80 metres out or whatever. But you find when we're on top of the ground, when we've got control of the game and we're moving the ball well, we can get to that 60, 70 metres out, and we can get the ball to 25, 30 metres out with our entries, and it makes such a difference.
It certainly does. And I think the addition of Thilthorpe totally changes the look of the forward line, because all of a sudden, I know Fogarty in particular benefits greatly from it, because all of a sudden you've got Thilthorpe as this towering guy that they've got to really concentrate on, and Fogarty is playing like a man inspired at the moment. His physicality when he's got the ball and somebody's trying to tackle him is quite amazing, really. And we going back in years gone by, in the last couple of years, there were times we thought he wasn't totally interested in the game, but he's more than interested at the moment. He's giving 100%. In fact, he's loving the physical side of it.
Oh, absolutely. His ability to compete, whereas previously he was tentative, now he's playing with a physicality that we haven't previously seen from him. Just for those watching, my camera might go in a minute. It looks like it's dying of battery, so if I suddenly freeze on the screen, my apologies, and I just did. So you're gonna have to put up with. Thankfully, it's not a bad freeze frame, so I'll just leave it.
Good.
Yeah. So look, it's really good to see him take the next step, and he's still only young. Mac. I mean, imagine him in 2 or 3 years' time. He's just going to be unstoppable. Thilthorpe.
Yeah, and I think that with Thilthorpe in there and Fogarty, it certainly takes away a lot of the responsibility from Walker, doesn't it? Because Walker didn't really have a great game today and a great influence on the game. I mean, he did a couple of good things, but not at normal Walker standard, yet the forward line functioned beautifully.
Well, they played Walker high
Yes,
today.
they did.
He was much further up the ground. He pulled that defender out of the situation, and I liked it because it did isolate the two tools, Fogarty and Thilthorpe, and allowed Keys to get to work and those blokes. So I didn't mind the setup at all. It was quite noticeable, and Tex isn't that mobile, but he can give you some hustle and bustle up on the wing. So. I didn't mind that setup, and of course Fogarty can play that setup as well, so it can kind of interchange. That's going to be the role that whoever takes up that third tall forward position in the future, whether we get another year out of Tex or not, that's the role that we want. That ability to interchange between the three of them pushing up and playing deep.
No, that was a very good observation, Glenn. Totally agree.
All right, so let's just have a look at some individual stats, shall we? And let me just get this together. And my apologies for my camera, but bad luck. I can't do anything about it right now. Lockie Shoal, another fantastic game. 34 touches, 25 kicks, 9 handballs. Went at 68%. 646 metres gained, another wingman's game from Lockie, and what I liked was that there was a little bit more forward 50. He had 10 rebound 50s, but he also had an inside 50, but it just seemed he wasn't camped too much behind play. He was also willing to go forward a little bit.
Yeah, I thought Lockie was fantastic, actually, and he shows a lot of courage. He'll take a hit now. He'll go in for a hard ball, and I mean, he was always open to criticism for being a little bit tentative, put it that way.
Yeah.
But no, he couldn't do much more than he's doing at the moment. He had 34 disposals. I mean, great game.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Crouch, 32. As I said, I thought for a while there he was ineffective, but he did improve as the game wore on and ended up gaining 400 metres, which is good for Matt. Had 18 contested possessions, which was fantastic. his disposal efficiency numbers weren't great, but he still had 15 and 17. So pretty decent game from Matt, particularly as the game wore on, I thought.
Yeah, slightly better balance with his handball kick ratio, and I know his natural instinct is to handball rather than to kick, but as the game wore on, he started to kick more, as you said, and to get full value out of him, he's got to just keep working at it for more kicks than handballs. But by the same token, I thought he did extract some good balls in the centre, which helped set us up on the way out of the centre.
Yep. Rory Laird, by contrast, he had 28, 16 and 12, went at 70%, playing behind the ball, 20 effective disposals, 418 metres gained, 8 contested possessions, 4 rebound 50s. And yet, I didn't feel like his game was that damaging, Macca, did you?
No, he doesn't find a teammate very often, Finn. I think that's the problem.
He has this ability to sell teammates into trouble or set them up, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. He is good at getting the ball. There's no doubt about that. But he doesn't have the ability to accelerate from there, and so therefore he's just kicking it and usually under pressure. But in fairness to him, he fought well to get the ball, but not the greatest usage.
Yeah. Geordie Dawson just did what Geordie does, 27 touches, 14 and 13. Efficiency numbers not great, but he got 514 metres for us, 6 contested possessions, 4 rebound 50s, 2 inside 50s. I feel like Jordan's our Swiss Army knife at the moment, Macca. We use him to plug gaps and sit in holes and play spots, and that's great and all, but I would love to, and it's probably not a bad use of him given that we suspect that he's injured, or carrying something, I should say. But I'd like to see us settle on a role for him.
Well, you're right. He is a bit like a Swiss Army knife at the moment, because he does, in the one game, he'll play forward, on ball, and in defence. And look, add to his 27 disposals, he did take perform 9 tackles as well. I thought he played a real captain game, and I think he's not 100% fit, but by the same token, he was up in our top 3 best players.
Yeah, and it's interesting from there, most of our, even like from Laddie down, we've got a couple of high possession winners in defenders. Worrell and Keane had 21 and 20 respectively. Shows you, that there was a fair amount of ball in their forward line, and a fair amount of repeat entries into their forward line, but they just weren't terribly effective, were they? And I thought our defence in general did a pretty good job, Macca.
I thought a very good job, actually. There's at times, they did get an occasional mark up forward, but we were very good at spoiling the ball, and in fact, at times just judging the ball better than them. I thought the defence overall did a very good job, and I can't really isolate one of them and say they didn't go any good. Perhaps Murray might have been the one that, I'm not saying he played badly, but he's the one that I think was beaten a few times. He'll just get better. He'll get better the more games he plays.
Keane sometimes was caught out of position. He tends to ball watch, Mark Keane, and
he does.
He can let his opponent get goal side a bit. So whether that's concentration or just still learning the game, I'm not sure. But it certainly happened a couple of times. But in general, I thought that they were pretty solid through there. Max Michaelani as well with 18 touches. Mitch Hinge with 16 back there. And even though he didn't have a lot of it, I thought Hugh Bond was excellent on that little pain in the arse, and kept him pretty quiet. So, another feather in Hugh's cap.
Yeah, stole my line there, Finn. I was about to raise him because I really liked his game. He just kept him down to a very, very ordinary game. And, the guy really does. He's a very determined character. He's quite strong physically too, Finn.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's very
I
strong
like it.
physically.
Yep. And he doesn't do much wrong either. So, I mean,
No,
he didn't get a heap of the ball, but he makes sure his opponent doesn't. Um, and he certainly had got no fear. No, he's good.
no,
I think
that's
he's a
right.
good player.
Yeah. Saligo was good in patches, 19 touches, 10 and 9. Again, disposal efficiency down a little bit, but he had 4 inside 50s and 8 contested possessions, so it wasn't a bad game from Saligo. Keys also 19 touches, 9 and 10. Very similar stats actually to Saligo. I thought our midfield was just even across the board. You know, we all had blokes chipping in. We had Rankin chipping in. We had Berry chipping in. We had, even Dan Curtin chipping in. Zach Taylor towards the end, I think, got 3 touches from limited minutes. I just felt like it was... I really like it when we have multiple options to rotate through the midfield. And, I think that's what we had today. And if we had Dowling in there, you could probably add him to that equation as well.
And yeah, it makes it so much harder for the opposition to line up against you when they've got different types of players going through there, because the ones you've all mentioned, they are different types of players as well. They're not just clones of each other. So when you can mix and match it like that in the centre, it does make it a lot more difficult for the opposition to stop you.
Now, J&M has dropped another $5 super chat in YouTube. That's 2 in a row, J&M, so I do appreciate that. But he's asked me for my intel on Lukosius, and I think he's gone early because I don't have any.
Well,
I don't know. I might have to refund that super chat to you, mate, because I don't have any intel at all. Just a few thoughts, but no intel.
Well, the only intel was on 5AA, and that was Rowie saying that he can say with 100% certainty that Nick's met with Lukosius in Brisbane last week. He said that's 100% certain.
Well, can we just park that for a minute? We'll just finish up on this game, and then we can talk about that situation.
Okay.
Because there's probably a bit there to talk about, and I do want to get J&M his $5 worth.
Okay.
And we've got Arab in the chat here that we'll have a chat with in a minute too. Look, it was really an all played well situation. I didn't feel like, apart from those people that we've mentioned, that there were any real standouts, Macca. I just thought it was a really good, even performance. There were some really good signs from a lot of players. And it's probably how we're going to shape up in terms of our best 22, give or take 1 or 2 players, going forward. Yeah.
As I said, I really did like the side that we picked this week, and with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. And it will basically will be the players that we'll rely on next year, and hopefully with 1 or 2 added to them. And hopefully Curtin gets 4 games every. Well, I'm sure he will now to the end of the season. So just making that a little bit more experience for next year. I think that. Well, it's a good side thing. It played very well.
Does it have enough class, Macca?
Well, that's the one thing. We would really want, I'd say, to be a side that you could guarantee would be a finals team. I'm not saying we won't get there next year, but what I'm saying is that if you had 2 class players, preferably at least 1 in the midfield, it would make a big difference, because we don't have too many class players. I'd say Dawson is a class player, and I'd say Rankin is a class player, and they were imported into the team. But I don't. Fogarty is heading that way. Thorpe is heading that way. They've got to still carry on to get there to be called class. I think we could maybe end up with some, but it won't hurt to get put it this way. It won't hurt to get another 1 or 2. We get a nice midfielder in the draft, and I I've got to use that pick 4 or pick 5, whichever it is, and get a good mid in the draft. And I think the signs are good for next year.
Yeah, I think that's probably my only query. Do we have enough class? I think we've got enough grunt. I think we've certainly got enough peripheral players. We've got a couple of players like Rankin and Thilthorpe and that who could be anything. And when you look at premiership sides in the past, they're quite even across the board, but generally they've got a good, classy midfield. I mean, you look at. I don't think you would call Melbourne's midfield, even in their premiership year, necessarily classy, Macca, but it was certainly exceptional in terms of its their ability to get the ball and their ability to drive the ball forward.
Oh, Petrarca is class. Petrarca's class.
He's just a ball, Macca. He's not. I wouldn't say he's silky.
Oh well, at his very best, I thought he was in that category. He can be sort of erratic and not. I wouldn't say that he brings it every game, but he has games where he looks like it anyhow. Oliver, of course, is just a workhorse, and the others that they use, they're just workhorses as well.
What's going on there? It's a bit weird.
What?
Oh, that's right. I'm just trying to replace my camera, but it's doing some funny things. Anyway, continue.
No, I was just saying you were talking about the class players, and we've got players that might end up that way, but they've still got some development to do.
Yeah, no. Well, I think we've still got. I think we've still got some work to do. I think there's a lack of class in our midfield that isn't going to be plugged by our current list unless Joshua Shelley comes on. So I think that's a problem. I also... What is that happening? I also agree with you, Macca, that we really need to hit this draft hard in terms of going for midfield talent, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of their first pick, particularly if it is a thing that they're looking for someone like Jack, because I would hate for us to use our pick 4 on a trade.
Well, if it is Jack Lukosius, I mean, he is definitely only worth a second rounder. Just wipe him if they ask him for more. He is not a first round trade. He's definitely. They've dropped him this week, and his form hasn't been that outstanding. No, he's a second rounder, just a second rounder.
Well, I think so. Look, for J&M's sake, my position has always been and what I've been told directly in the past is that Adelaide is not a club that he would want to play for. But having said that, that was when he was in a position of strength, wasn't he?
Yes, which he isn't at the moment.
That's right, and that's what's changed. So now he's in a situation where he is going to some degree, have to actually, take what's given to him, and that might not necessarily be to his liking. So, it's a situation that's changed compared to what it was 12 months ago or 6 months ago, the last time I spoke to someone who would know. So it will be very interesting to see what happens if there are multiple suitors for Jack, and if Port Adelaide are one of those suitors, because that will, I think, influence very much what happens in terms of that trade.
Yeah, well, we're presuming there is one. But as I said, Rowie said on 5AA that he can guarantee that he knows as a fact that Nixon met with the Lukosius. And I don't doubt he would be saying that if it wasn't true.
I just find that impossible to believe, and I'll tell you why. Because it's against AFL rules.
Well, we did it. No, we did it with Petty. We were doing it with Petty non-stop.
How do you know?
We did it. Well, Petty didn't just go to the Melbourne and say, I want to go to Adelaide without somebody talking to him.
To him or to his manager?
Well, that I can't guarantee. I wouldn't know that. And
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Mackie. You're making a very, very big assumption.
No, Rowi's made it.
No, you're talking about what we did with Petty, right? You're making an assumption that we talked to him rather than his manager.
Well, Rowi made it, the statement, and he didn't say manager. He said that he met with Lukosius. That were his exact words. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not. But that's what he said.
Why are you jumping between Lukosius and Petty? You said that we were talking to Petty all year.
Well, maybe we did it through his manager, but we were certainly talking to him.
So, but Rowi's basically said that Nixon, Jack sat down and had a chat.
That's what he said.
And that is firmly against AFL rules.
It may well be, but I'm only repeating what he said.
Yeah, I know, but you said you had no reason to doubt him, so don't get defensive. Like, stand by what you said.
It doesn't worry me that much, Pete. I mean, I don't think.
Hang on, you made the statement that Rowie said this, and you have no reason to doubt him. Well, I'm giving you reason to doubt him because it's against the AFL rules.
Well, okay, maybe he didn't. I'll say, well, I'll withdraw my comment. I have no reason to doubt him. But the point is, I'm just, as I say, I'm only a conduit. I'm only just repeating what he said.
Yeah, well, look, there's no doubt that Nix went to Gold Coast because he was seen on the flight and blah, blah, blah. Some reports said that Darren Burgess also went up to the Gold Coast. I'm not sure what. It's... The last conversation I had with Rob was at the beginning of the year, which I reported on, which he said that Jack loved it up there, and the only thing of interest from that conversation, I think I reported at the time, was that it took Jack a little while to warm to Hardwick's mantras and his ways and all that sort of stuff, but he was all in by the end of the pre-season. But, maybe Hardwick picked up on that. Who knows? I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that the dynamic now is very different to what it was back then, because back then Lukosius was a required player, and now, for whatever reason, it seems like he's not. But I can't understand the Gold Coast tanking his value by not playing him in either grade. Like, he basically sat out this week.
I didn't know that he didn't play down in the twos.
As far as I'm aware, he didn't play at all. Still, the great on the chat says, my intel doesn't mean shit. Well, I'm quite happy for you to come on and elaborate on that, mate, because my intel couldn't be from a closer source if it wasn't from Jack himself.
Yeah. I know what your source is. Yeah, it is a good source.
Yeah, but anyway, someone's put it to me that Big Rob might have had said similar things to other people in the media and whatever, just to take the heat off. But I actually heard exactly the same thing from a mate of his at a different location who didn't know who I was and had no idea, like, what my connection was. So I don't know. Look, all I'm saying is that I think the dynamics change now with Jack Lukosius. I think now he's been it seems like he's been pushed aside. It seems like he's out of favour with Hardwick, and he's going to have to take another club. And we would be silly not to put our hands up for that.
Well, to me, he'd be handy, but I've watched every game, and I've never seen him really take a game by the scruff of the neck. And while he could be handy, he's not a must-have in my opinion, Pete.
Well, let's put it this way, and let's put it into context that he's a taller player. They take longer to come on. Yada yada yada. I don't think he's lived up to his early pick traits. I think he's unfortunately not grown anymore, which makes him a little bit of a tweener in terms of a key spot. Mm-hmm. I think he's a little bit similar to Elliot Himmelberg in terms of his strength in the contest. Mm-hmm. So if you talk about Adelaide and where we could slot him, I think the best and maybe only spot that we could use him in would be as a lead up and back forward.
Yeah. And he is a good kick.
He did kick 40 goals last year, Macca. He kicked 40 goals. That takes some doing.
Yeah, that's fair. But in terms of a price, he's definitely not worth more. And you've got to go by his performance. Forget where he was drafted. He's only worth a second rounder.
Well, I would agree with that. I think he's worth probably our future second.
Yeah, but history says he prefers Port over us anyhow. So if he is on the market, it might well be Port that go after him. And you say, well, they haven't got any draft picks, which they virtually haven't. But there's all this talk about Houston going to Victoria next year, even though he's got a couple of years to go on his contract, which I find quite amazing. But Port I think Port generate it. I did this with Amon. They were talking about, there was all this talk about Amon going into state about round 6 or 7 in the bloody year. And I reckon Port generate it so that people want to get him and to build up the desire for him so they can get a good trade.
Yeah, well, what I heard was that Houston wants to go back to Victoria for private reasons. So I think Port would have a bigger need for Jack Lukosius than we would, to be honest with you.
Well, they do, because they got Marshall at centre half forward, or Marshmallow as I call him, soft as butter, and he's always getting injured. He's not their answer. No, he would fit in very nicely at Port at centre half forward.
Well, it's not playing centre half forward. He's not a centre half forward, Macca.
Well, in their forward line, put that way.
He's a lead up third forward, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think he's shown that's. You want him to get. You want to get him around the ground with him. You want him field kicking. You want him kicking for goal. You don't want him taking pack marks or having the ball dropped on his head, because there's no point.
He doesn't play that way, no.
No, he doesn't play that way at all.
It'll be interesting to see anyhow.
Yeah, so, I wouldn't give up more than our future second for him. I don't think he's worth enough for us to actually pursue him. I'd be actually very surprised if Matthew Nix went up there to speak with Lukosius. There's a couple of other blokes up there that are also out of favour that I wouldn't mind having a chat to as well. So, I don't take it with a bar of soap.
Yep, time will tell. It'll be interesting, but the other thing too is, as somebody said, maybe we spoke to Jude. We will be getting new assistant coaches next year. I would think at least one, a minimum one, maybe more. Jude would probably be a good guy to get as an assistant coach.
Why?
Oh, because I think he's had a lot of coaching responsibility, and he understands the setups, and I think that I'd like him as a midfield coach over VB.
Oh, yeah. I'll put this to you, Mac. A reason why Matthew Nicks and Darren Burgess might have gone up to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Well, we are looking for a new head of strength and conditioning at the moment.
True.
So,
well, there'd be a reason for some. I mean, they obviously have had a mission, but and maybe Lukosius got a mention, but it might could be for other things as well. Yeah,
that's right, 100% right. For Rowie to say that he can dead set certainly say that he sat down with Jack, I think that's a load of shit. I'd like to see the pictures. Dylan in YouTube, I'm sorry, as I said, the battery ran out of my on my camera, so unfortunately I have to put up with just Macca for the rest of the show, which won't be too much longer. No, Burgess isn't leaving Surf Sods. This is a position under Burgess. So this is strength and conditioning, which is under Burgess. I forget the name of the lad who's gone, but they've been advertising it for a while.
They have.
Yep. All right, so that's that. Well, I mean, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It is what it is, and I guess we'll see what happens, won't we? But I'm far more keen for us to nail this pick, whether it be 4 or 5. There's some good midfield talent at the top end of this draft, and I think getting back to the point about whether we have enough class, I think it's important that we choose a classy mid there, because they'll be maturing right as we're in the frame, I reckon. Well,
they reckon this is the strongest mid draft for many a long year, and there's not much of a whisker between the first 6, and we'll certainly be having a crack inside that first 6. So it's really up to them now. I mean, they just can't get this one wrong. They just got to get the right bloke. Don't get a sawn off one like McHenry, and don't get one like Jones who doesn't really come on. I mean, just get the right bloke. And there is enough revealed form there of these guys. They're all showing qualities, but you've got to work out which ones are going to develop to be the type of midfield that you need as well, given the ones you've already got. So, yeah, the opportunity is there for, and so they must nail it.
Yeah, GP mentions in the chat, Toomey was talking about Langford the other day. I really like him. Whether he's the only thing that I would stop and think about is whether he's the class that we need. He reminds me a bit of Luke. Why is his name gone now? Our lad. What's his name?
What, Jones, McHenry?
No, Luke. He's injured at the moment. Pedler. Yeah, I was kept thinking bloody Perry. Luke Perry. Luke Pedler. He reminds me a bit of Luke Pedler. Is that he's got a lot of good qualities. But is he silk? Probably not. That's probably the only thing that I would say about Langford.
Yeah. We want a silky one. We want somebody that's really classy.
Look, I think so, and I think there's, we don't want to speculate on a mid half forward. There's enough mids in that draft pool for us to be able to, if we're doing our work properly, then there's enough in that draft pool to be able to pick someone out.
There is, and a quality one, but it's a matter of getting one which complements the rest of our midfield, so that they can come straight into the team.
Yeah, well, yeah, as close as possible, absolutely. Yeah. Is Dan Curtin going to be that? I'm not so sure. I still think that he lacks a little bit of agility at the moment. Cam, my son, mentioned that he feels like he lacks a little bit of power, and I'd go along with that. He seems to lack a little bit of power in his legs at the moment, Macca.
Yeah, I haven't been able to make a judgment on that yet, Shane, because we haven't seen him enough. I thought I did like his forward movements. His forward movements were very good, I thought. In the midfield, he had 10 CBAs and probably only touched it 3 times in that time. But that's not necessarily his fault. Maybe it didn't go near him. But, if you take a Rankin, I mean, he has the agility to make a ball that's not his, make it his ball. I don't think he's that type of player. But, he could develop into a Cripps type of player in time.
Cripps is pretty powerful. I don't know about that. He'd have to put on a bit of beef.
Oh, that's true, but he's taller than Cripps, actually.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. My question was how do you feel about his power and agility?
I think he's got enough. I think you would give the kid time, and I think he could turn into a midfielder. I certainly don't want to see him turn into a defender. So I'd rather see him turn into I'd definitely try and concentrate him down that field.
Yeah. Dylan in the YouTube chat, Curtin is a beast. I know he's a big lad in terms of his height. I don't know. We'll wait and see. On that one. We've got Arab in the chat, Macca. Let's bring Arab in and say g'day. How you going, mate?
Hello, guys. How are we today?
Very good, thank you, mate.
Yeah, not too bad. Just a couple of things that, like, when you guys were talking, I just want to mention it. Sorry to go back to the Lukosius thing. Just one thing to say. Think of it this way, and I want to see if you will still go for him. If he was pick 20, let's say, or a second rounder from Victoria, would you still go for him or no? Is he worth all this arguments and all these things about, let's go for him, let's give up? To me, if he was not South Australian and if he was not pick 2, no one would care and be like, let's go for this player. 100%. That's the thing. The only thing that we see with Lukosius, I find, that people see with Lukosius, is he's South Australian and he was pick 2. That's the only thing I hear about him.
Arab, the South Australian factor that you mentioned is probably quite big in the sense that we're more conscious of him because he is an ex-South Australian. And you're probably right that if he was a Victorian, we probably wouldn't be looking at him in that sense. But he does have to be a South Australian. And if he is coming home, I mean, then, you might as well have a crack if you think you've got a need for him, if you can get it at the right price. But your point's pretty valid, though.
Yeah. Other thing that I was...
So, hang on, before you move on, Arab, some would say that was the case with Isaac Rankin as well.
Yeah, that's true. Very true, Pete.
Isaac Rankin did not put together games like he's put with us with Gold Coast. So I think in the sense that Jack would be at home and settled, and I'm not saying he's not settled up at the Gold Coast because by all reports he loves it up there. I think there's certainly something to be said for being at home and all the rest of it and feeling more comfortable. I don't know how much of a factor that plays, but I do agree with you, Arab, that if he was just another player, then we wouldn't be having these conversations. I do agree with you on that.
Mm. The other thing is, I find very confusing is when people say, like you guys were talking earlier, that we don't have class. Well, how many class players do you need? I think we have it. The thing that doesn't make, it's like, we have Isaac Rankin, he's class. You have Rochelle in the forward line. When he's up and about, he's class. Yes, he doesn't do your average tackling and things like that. But this year he kicked 29 goals. And he's about to kick more than that. And we haven't really given him an opportunity to shine in the midfield. Every time we've played a bit more forward up the ground, he's done a few good things. It's just we haven't played him right. And that's another class player. You got Thilthorpe, you've got Fogarty, like the kicks that he did today. In the back line, you've got Michaelani, you've got, like, those are the class players you need. Like, let's go back to last year's. Who was really, really, like, you could say, top-notch class? with Collingwood. I mean, yeah, you could say Nick Dacos, but
no, you can't just say that. It was most definitely Nick Dacos.
No, it was Dacos. I was saying, but I'm saying there wasn't much class. Like you say, we need 5 or 6 players. You just need 1 or 2, and you need everyone else to be a good player. You don't need a lot of class, if that makes sense.
Do you think we've got enough class in our midfield?
I believe so. I definitely do. I think that you've got the right mix. It's just that we need to develop it. You've got Dowling, who's shown a lot. You've got Curtin, who's showing that he's able to do things in there. You've got Rochelle that can do things, and he can play that bit of midfield. You've got Isaac Rankin in there. You've got there are players there. I just to me,
most of those players are unproven. You can't say that Dan Curtin's class yet because he's played 5 minutes in there. You can't say that Josh Rochelli's class yet because he hasn't shown it consistently. Like the only player that I would say is I think all things being equal and all injuries aside, I think that our 2 class midfielders are Dawson and Rankin. I think both of those blokes are class, and maybe that is enough. I would like one more younger player coming through with that sort of class.
What about Zach Taylor and Saligo?
I think Saligo is a very honest midfield and damaging midfield. I wouldn't call him class.
He's more a very brave workhorse type of midfielder who he bursts through physically, and look, he could develop into a classy midfielder. Well, as he body gets used to it and tougher and all the rest of it, because he's doesn't lack courage. The great thing about Saligo is he keeps his feet. He stays upright, and I love that about him. Look, he will. I believe that Jake Saligo is projecting to be a very, very high-end midfielder because of his work rate, because of his balance, his disposal at pace under pressure can be a little bit off, but there's tons to like it. But I don't think he's class, Arab. I don't think he's class.
Maybe I'm seeing a bit wrong. I don't know, but yeah, to me, it's just like I think my biggest thing is like I don't want to blame the players and I don't want to say anything about the players anymore because I've seen like the decisions that we've been making. Like we've got 3 games left. Why are we getting rid of Dowling? Why is Zach Taylor stop? It's just to me, it's just like to me, I see the players and I'm like, we got the players. I think they're good players. They made it to the AFL list. Not a lot of kids can do that. Our problem is not the players, it's the management and it's the coaches. I think even if you had the Hawthorn team in their repeat, you would still not make it that far with those type of coaches that we have at the moment.
Yeah. Well, Arab, that's the same as what you said last week. So have you got anything else?
It's sorry.
You keep saying the same thing every week.
Yeah. No. No, it's all good. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, mate. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Oh, Phoenix has just gone crack straight between the eyes. Sorry, Arab, we love your work, but people's eyes start to glaze over when we do it as well. Me and Macca, we start going over the same thing, and I think, oh shit, people must be sick of this. All right, anyway. Look, I think that's probably the question that probably still needs to be answered, and the point that Arab makes is very true, is that we probably can't answer the question because the development has been so stunted on some of these kids. They're probably 30, as we said the other day, they're 30 or 40 30 or 40 games short of where they should be. And as a consequence, they're still, still developing. So we don't know.
Yeah. When you talk about a class midfield, you look at Port Adelaide with Butter, Rogie, and Horn Francis. That's class. They're class. But they didn't start off as class. I mean, as you said, they were given the opportunity, and they've developed. And after 2 or 3 years of being played at that level, that they've become the class players that they are. So
Yep.
it's not to say that we haven't got players that won't become class, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, Macca, we have who we got? Sydney next week, haven't we?
Do we?
Yeah.
And
Port
it's
next week.
no.
Port next week.
Yeah,
Sydney
yeah.
the week after. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, it's a showdown next week, and look, I would say that Port wouldn't have liked seeing our game today, actually, because we've won the last 2 showdowns, and it means that we're coming into this particular showdown with possibly our best side for the year, and in form. I'm not saying we'll definitely win it or anything like that, but I'm just saying that from a Port Adelaide point of view, I'd be saying I wish we'd played them about 3 weeks ago, not now.
Yeah. Look, I actually think that we're possibly in the best form we've been in over the last couple of weeks. The Geelong match, whilst we lost, was good signs. I thought our game against Western Bulldogs today was really good. I think our side is balanced, not many injuries now, and Port have a few problems. So you're right, Mac. I don't think that they would be liking coming up against us in this form, particularly given how precarious the top 4 is and how things are changing so quickly. So, do we win the game? I don't know. I think, the showdowns are always 50-50, and
Exactly.
I think we have enough firepower to be able to beat them. I certainly think we have enough firepower up forward to really trouble their defence.
Yep.
The issue will we be able to get enough quality ball into our forwards to be able to put the score on the board? I think that's probably going to be the key. I think our defence matches up quite well with them. I worry about the strength of their midfield and whether, as a result, we're going to get enough quality entries.
Well, I think our forward line is better than their defence, and I think our defence is better than their forward line, but I think their midfield is much, much better than ours. So you work that equation out, and I reckon it can come out different answers on different days. So I wouldn't. I think we'll go well, but who will win the game? I mean, if their midfield absolutely dominate, which they're capable of doing, then I think, and that's when they're very dangerous, because what they do is they hem the ball in, they get it in there, and then they just hem it in until eventually they get a score. If we could break even in the midfield against them, then I think we're every chance of beating them. But that's where their real strength is, the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting game, and of course, being a showdown, it adds that little bit of flavour to it. Port's home game, of course, so it'll be nice to win in front of all those flogs. But we do have the bigger picture to think about, and that is pick 4 over pick 5, and I'd really, really like to hang on to pick 4 if we could. So I'd be happy with a 3-goal loss, Macca, to be honest with you.
I'm in the same camp, see. It makes you feel disloyal, but common sense says that when you're that close, you just keep going. I'd like to see a good game, but just fail.
Yeah, well, Jakey in the chat makes a good point. If the Saints get up before our game, then that might change the situation. Maybe then I might be happy for us winning, because either the Saints got the Saints. No, the Saints play at the same time as us. That's just
They
not
do.
helpful at all. It's not helpful at all. And then they're not beating Geelong. They're not beating Geelong. So, so I don't think... And we got Sydney the last round. Who the Saints got? Saints got Carlton. Geez, that could go either way too. No, I'm not comfortable. Jakey, I'm sorry. I want an honourable loss.
Yes. Look, I'm sure we'll celebrate if we do win, but because we do love the team. But having said that, a loss is probably our best result in the sense of getting a players for next year. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, as soon as I turn the TV on, I'll be barracking for us to win.
Exactly.
You know, and
Exactly.
Dylan says 4 in a row against Port is better than any draft pick. 4 in a row against Port means absolutely jack shit, Dylan. But a draft pick could be the difference between a run at the flag within the next 5 years or not. So I humbly disagree with you.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you've been, 100%. And as you said, look, once the game starts, I'll be barracking my head off for us. But deep down, if we do get up and win, I'll be thinking, oh, bugger. But, it's just one of those situations.
Packer reckons we're taking Draper. I'm not sure whether we will. But anyway, that's for another conversation. Mac, it's been a good 90 minutes. Some would say a great 90 minutes because I've been invisible for half of it. See, if they couldn't see me and they couldn't hear you, that would almost be the perfect podcast.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Sorry, mate. No, that's not true at all. Not true at all. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and on YouTube and on Facebook and every other platform that you're listening to, either live or on demand during the course of the week. We really appreciate all your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever on YouTube, and if you feel like it, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. That'd be great. That's about all I've got. I did have something else that I wanted to say. No, can't think of it. Don't forget to get around the 100th episode of Here We Crow. Good fun. And there may be a special guest down there that they're not aware of yet. We'll wait and see how I'm feeling after work tomorrow. So, thanks, Macca. Thanks, everyone. Until next week, we will say farewell. See you later.
Yep. Good night, all.